Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in today. My name is Fadila Ahmed, and I'm the founder of Africans Living Fully, bringing you the guide to the future of work and global transition, a webinar series to empower you to be able to thrive in the new normal amidst the global transition and digital transformation happening all over the world. This is brought to you by Africans Living Fully in partnership with 1,000 African Voices. So on the call today, I will be co-hosting this session with my co-host from 1,000 African Voices. And our session today is on how to pivot and make the next right move in your career. On the session today, I'll be co-hosting with Aburungi Nengovela, who is the executive producer of 1,000 African Voices, a podcast on the fourth industrial revolution in South Africa. Along, we have a supporting team lead and our ally, Madeline Ramos, joining us from New Jersey, USA. On the session today, we have our speakers, two incredible young women who have been trailblazing their careers for the past decade. And I couldn't ask for a better guest on this session than the two ladies that we have on the call. The first session, or the first speaker, is Shiraz Bensemana, my very good friend whom I met on a cruise somewhere last year on the Nomad Cruise, and she's joining us from Algeria. She's Algerian with a France influence. She's a trade facilitation expert, business development consultant, and a coach. She started her company, Pitch World Fast, about 5 years ago, helping organizations, medium and large size organizations, to launch in new markets. And now she also has a project and a business called the Coach Tribe, connecting you with personal and professional coaches from around the world to help you pivot in your career and life. Our second speaker is no other person but Wamite Wanjiruy. She is American with a Kenyan root, deeply rooted in the culture. We met last year in Washington, D.C. during a conference, and I'm super excited to have her on the session today. She's a change management expert, as well as an international development professional who has, for over the past 10 years, worked with one of the largest non-governmental organizations in the world. And she runs her own company and platform called Career Safari, where she introduces and interviews women from around the world who are redefining what a meaningful career is like. So without any further ado, I will invite my co-host Aburungi to take it on from there. Hello, ladies, and thank you for tuning in today.
Thank you, Fadila, for that wonderful introduction. I'm actually quite excited to hear about our guests, and I suppose even more excited that we've got people on the line keen to hear from both Shiraz and Wamite. So yeah, we'll maybe kick the session off with just doing introductions. I'll start off. So I'm Aburengwi Nengobera, as Fadila mentioned, a South African and a host of 1,000 African Voices. So whenever I get a chance to talk about anything that has to do with Africa, I get excited. Can we maybe just ask both our guests to introduce themselves, just to touch on who you are and what you do? I know that Fadila has touched on it a bit, but it always carries a bit more weight when it comes to the actual guests. So maybe we can start with Shiraz, then we can go to Wamite, just who you are and what it is that you do. Thank you.
Everybody, thank you so much, Fadila and Aburengwi. I hope I pronounced well the name.
It's perfect.
Great. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited. And well, yes, as Fadila did an amazing introduction. And thank you again for that. As she said, I'm Algerian, so I'm tuning in from Algiers, where I've been confined for months, as I think most of us. I like to call myself a citizen of the world. I was born in Tunisia, from Algeria, then moved to France, and had the pleasure of, besides traveling, actually working in more than 12 different countries. South Africa being one of them, but also Brazil, Canada, China. And I am passionate about sale. That's how I created my first company called Pitch World Fast, which the goal is really to help people better sell themselves, companies better sell themselves, and export. And I'm also facilitator here in Algeria for a program called Hive Women Leadership Program. So I help women find what they're passionate about and launch their project. And with all of this, because it wasn't enough, right? When we are tuned in entrepreneurship, we tend to be addicted. I created recently another company called Coach Tribe, as Fadila mentioned, where the idea is to help people grow on a personal or professional level through thanks to coaches that are here to make an impact. And I am so happy to be here today to talk about how actually to transition potentially your life and how to make an impact as well. And I think I will share a bit more later on to give you an example of my journey that led to entrepreneurship, but how actually that could maybe help you regarding or where you are at today. So that'd be for me.
Oh, lovely. Thank you for that introduction. Then we'll go to our second guest, Wamite. If you can just do the same. Shirasa, I must say, when I saw your picture, I thought, gee, this is a high energy person. And now listening to you, I understand why, and I can see Wamite nodding. So Wamite, maybe just again who you are and what it is that you do.
Hello. It's afternoon here. I'm based in Washington, D.C. area. So good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are in the world. I am Wamite Mufarah and Fadila Aburangi. I'm going to work on how to pronounce your name. We're going to do this.
It's a tough, we've got a prize in the end for whoever pronounces it. So, yeah.
And Shiraz, I'm so happy to be here. As Fadila said, I am born and raised in the Washington, D.C. area, but I am the product of two very, very Kenyan parents and a very close Kenyan diaspora community that helped raise me. And as you can see, it's a close-knit family. Two of my siblings are on the call. You know, I'm the youngest child and I embrace it in every single way. So, hello? Having some, okay. Let me know if we're having mic challenges. I'm hearing some feedback. I had started my career actually in radio and television production and hated it. I did not like working with celebrities, and there was a slice of my work that was working with NGOs in the greater New York City area, and that introduced me to the world of nonprofit. And for the past, 13, 14 years, I have worked for the same NGO, but I have pivoted many times within that large organization, from fundraising to now I am doing digital transformation, strategy, and software service consulting. So I'll talk more about those disruptions later on. In 2017, I started a platform called Career Safari. So again, shout out to the Kenyan roots for Safari being a journey to celebrate and support women that are redefining and defining unique career journeys. So if I would say what I'm passionate about is for people to live their best life in the way that they define it, and to get out of our own way about, you know, what those projected ideas are, and to understand what you want and how to help you accomplish that. So very happy to be here, and hi everyone.
Lovely. Fadila, if we can come back to you, we'll kick off the questions. Given that we've got two guests, we'll really just rotate between Wamite and Shiraz. So Fadila, back to you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Abu. My ladies have set the house on fire already. Now, I want to begin with the very fundamental question. What do you actually define as a career? And do you believe that there is a universally acceptable definition of what a career should look like?
So I define a career as really what I would say a job is where you make your money. Mm-hmm. That is a place you go for, you know, 9 to 5 or for, you know, whatever you do just to make your money, to pay for your livelihood. To me, a career has more purpose behind it. And it doesn't have to be one purpose. I think your purpose and your vision for yourself should evolve and can evolve over time. But a career is more purpose driven. And sometimes you're making a lot of money from it. Maybe at times you're not, especially if you're an entrepreneur. So even if you're an entrepreneur and you are starting your endeavor, If you're not making money off of it, I still consider that a career because it has potential to bring in revenue for you. So I think a job is like just something that brings in revenue. You don't have any thought about it when you go home. A career is something that you have more ownership over. It has more purpose behind it. So those are my two distinctions for it.
Thank you. Shiraz, would you like to add anything to that?
Yes, I completely actually agree with Wamite as like the difference between having a job and having a career. And to add to that, I would say a career is more of a journey, and it will evolve according to where you are at, like maybe where you are physically, but where you're at in your life as well. And it's not something that is really fixed, that you might have figured it out. Your career will evolve like every single day with everything that in like, because your environment will evolve as well, and you will be growing. So I think you cannot really give potentially, I would say, one definition, because depending on who you are, your career path will be different. That's why it's a path and a journey.
That takes me to the very next and I think fundamental question about how do we actually define a meaningful career? And why do you believe that it is important for individuals to have their definition of what it means to do meaningful work and pursue a career that is true to them?
If I can start, sorry. I would say that it's important, whatever, and I think now we're more and more mindful of where we are and where we want to be, and those are like very important to kind of always try as much as we can to take a step back, to really reflect on where we're evolving, and to have as much as we can a plan. Not because we have to fix and like stay with it, but just to see if we are where we would want to be, according not only on a career or a job or money, but also according to our values and what kind of impact we would like to make. So we always have to tune in, and this is very important. And to be able to tune in, you have to actually start with this exercise of getting to know yourself better, know what you want, what you would like, in which way you would like to impact, and knowing what you would like to impact, the how might change. It's just good to have a bit of a vision and knowing. So starting with a definition of maybe who you are and what you would like to bring in the world, so that could actually guide you.
I believe, and if Fadila confirm, you could just nod your head. Mostly, the most participants here are in mid-career. Yeah. You're on mute. Okay. So when you're starting your career, I think the meaning is finding a job. Finding someone that is going to pay you. You know, if you went to college, like, oh, you know, the university fees have paid off, I have it. So, you know, when I think back to like the beginning, it was, I finally got a job. And I was lucky that I found an organization that I also believed in the purpose of it. And for those and I tell people who are working in the NGO space, be very, very careful about putting too much of your passion into your work. Because I think at some point in your career, especially as in mid-career professionals, you have to really do what Shiraz is saying, which is make meaning for yourself. If you work for a larger organization, if you work for a smaller company, I think people can put meaning on you. They can put meaning on what they want you to do. They can put meaning on where you think your career should be, whether it's a vice president or whether it's the administrative assistant. So you kind of have to quickly check, wait a minute, what is being projected on me now that I'm a couple of years or a few years into my career, and what do I want to be? You now have more information to decide what that looks like, and you have the energy now to actually say, I can shift or I can grow in the way that I want to grow. So for me, a meaningful career at this stage of my life is I'll be very honest with you, I have a dollar figure in my head about how much I want to make for lots of different reasons. And I'm not there yet, but I have it. It's being able to have a job where I'm learning a lot about digital transformation, which I have right now, but having the flexibility that I can work on my entrepreneurship role, which is Career Safari. So for me, that is meaning in like the professional side. But with that whole thing, I need balance. I need to have fun. I don't want to have a boss that is down my neck. So there's a lot of things that are underneath like what I consider a meaningful career. but it's important for you to define it for yourself.
Thank you. Would you say that there are certain factors that we need to consider when making that definition of what we say is a meaningful career? Because I am quite sure that there are quite a number of people who are on this call and even who are going to watch this afterwards that perhaps they didn't have a good start. They didn't get the dream job they wanted to get. Although they have been out of school for a while and they've been working whatever job it is they had access to, but how can at this point in their life where they do not have that level of growth and stability that they wanted, or that level of, I don't know, I don't want to call it success, but that level that we wanted all to reach at this stage in our life, how can they reconnect back to their core and define what a meaningful career is for them and pick it up from wherever it is they are now to forge ahead?
I would say the first step would be gentle with yourself. It's okay if you're not where you thought you would be by now. I'm sure all of us, depending on our journey, we might not be exactly where we thought. If I take my journey, if you would have met me 15 years ago at least and told me, oh, you're going to start a company, I'd be like, oh, never. This is not going to happen. I am not going to take a risk. I am a risk-averse person. I can manage a company with somebody else's money, not with mine. Look at that. Years later, that's not the way. So the first step, I would say, in wherever you are right now, be gentle with yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself. It's okay wherever you are. What you have to start with doing, if you're starting working or if you're like mid-career, as you said, first focus on where are you at today? What have you learned? What do you like to do? What are you good at? What are you great at? Start like thinking about this, and then think of what is the vision that you have for your life. And Wamite mentioned it, as in we're talking career, but we're talking balance in your life. It doesn't have to be just money, job, whatever. It has to be also the environment in which you want to work, the people you would like to work with. Sometimes it might be better to work in a job that you might not be paid great, but you have an amazing team and you're learning and you're growing. So it's about really what you want. So think about that. What do you want in your life? What do you want more of? And what do you want less of? Do you want, maybe some people actually don't want to have too much responsibility. And again, this is your definition. This is my definition for myself. This is Wamite's definition for herself. Fadila's, all of us, it's for ourselves. It's not because you do not want to become a manager that it means that you are a failure in your career. No. It has to be aligned with who you are, what you want. So really, those are the most important questions, as in like, what is the vision that I have for my life? What do I want more of? What do I want less of? What am I good at? What am I great at? And what do I want to develop? Like, if we start at least with that, this is going to help like define really after the rest, because I think what comes next to it is also your values, the kind of people you want to work with, industries, that kind of comes naturally in that space. But again, please, in whichever career you're at right now, be nice to yourself. Really, you're not a failure. You learn. This is always like, look at it as like, where am I today? What have I learned from it? And maybe you learned is like, I don't want all of this. And that's great.
Yeah, and that assessment you have to constantly do. I mean, maybe not every day, but I mean, frequently enough. Once a year, usually I have time to say, is this really what I want to do? And I might take 1 or 2 interviews outside of my job just to check that I'm in the right space. And actually a mentor taught me that. But I'll say Career Safari has 3 guiding principles. And the second one is you have your plans and then life happens. I think that it's great to have plans, and I love plans. I have a lot of plans, but you have to make room for life, whatever life is going to bring you. And I just think, I'm a spiritual person, that God has a way of just bringing you to it. And you kind of have to just flow with the river of where life is taking you. It's important to have a vision for yourself so that you don't get lost in somebody else's vision, as I said earlier. But then you have to like kind of you take 1 or 2 steps and see where the river is flowing you. In terms of like entrepreneurship, and if you kind of now make the assessment that, I don't really like where I am, I think I started off on the wrong foot. No, wrong, right? Everyone's journey is different. And that's why thank you, Fadila. The second principle is the first one is there's not one way to have a career. Everyone has a different starting point. Everyone makes different decisions. And that's why for Career Safari, I love to showcase different women. I remember when I interviewed Fadila and she was telling me things that she did in her life choices. My mouth was on the floor. I'm like, you did what? I would have never made some of the decisions she made. But look where she is, smiling, happy, bringing us together, and I am too. So there's not one way to have a career. So be gentle, you are where you are. And going back to social entrepreneurs, it's what problem are you trying to solve? What need are you trying to fulfill? And who is your audience? So if you know that you want to, you're like, I don't like what I'm doing and I want to do entrepreneurship, I would say those are like the 3 guiding questions. And you have to constantly, again, revisit that, because as you know your audience, that changes. As you test out your ideas, it changes. So you have to just get very comfortable with the evolution of your career and your business.
Fantastic. Aburungi, can you kickstart the discussion on digital transformation and globalization and how that has affected the workforce and what we can all do to be able to ensure that we are not left behind, but we are taking advantage of the opportunities that exist and redefining who we are so we can be able to pivot?
Yeah, with pleasure. I've actually been waiting for that. We're going to start off with Wamite. The questions around digital transformation, then we'll go to Shiraz. Personally, I find that people think of digital transformation as, oh, I'm in this business, I need to create an app. And that's such a very myopic or short-sighted way of thinking about digital transformation. So I'm really curious to understand from Wamite and Shiraz later how they view the role of digital transformation in how we're thinking about not only careers, but companies as a whole. What is the role of digital transformation and technology in general, sort of in 2020? And how do you think we need to think about digital transformation and tech in general?
Yeah, this is a very hot topic, and it can be very contentious, even within a company. I made the shift to be firmly planted in the digital transformation space a little over a year ago. I had a pretty traditional NGO capacity building job, which I loved, and I stuck with it for many years and accomplished things that I'm proud of. But something pulled me to really want to do digital transformation work, and the opportunity came to me and I took it. What I considered, it's really about looking at it from a company perspective, it's about their business model. How are they generating revenue? How are they being able to reach their customers and reach their audience to give them revenue? And technology enables us to do it a lot faster and a lot more direct, and it helps you get to people like as they sleep almost. And that really is what I see as digital transformation. It's moving from analog and having to like knock on people's door to getting to know their algorithms, studying their data, how many times they like your page, how many times they click on your email. So it's getting faster at understanding their behaviors and then creating products for them so that they can come back to you and keep on purchasing whatever you're giving to them. So that is what I define as digital transformation. And in terms of your career, no matter what industry that you're in, you need to be clear about what disruption is happening around technology and how technology is shaping your work in industry. And it's in every single industry, it's being disrupted by technology. And yes, artificial intelligence is going to take jobs. It already is taking jobs. And it's predicted that the new positions that AI is going to generate are not going to even match what the jobs that they're taking away. And it's actually going to require more highly skilled labor than, you know, what we see in some of the more traditional jobs. So let's acknowledge that. And I don't think you should fear. I think you need to be on the edge of this. It's, if you're sitting in an industry, no matter what industry it is, accept that it's here and start understanding how the usage of data and the usage of technology is starting to shape your industry.
I absolutely like that. And when you say rather choose to be on the edge, there's a YouTube channel that I watch a lot where they now talk about being on the bleeding edge. So not only being on the edge, but being now on the bleeding edge. If you can maybe go to Shiraz to maybe get your views on digital transformation and tech. People worry about losing their jobs. At the same time, we want things to be better, but when things do become better, we then have new fears that things are now different and maybe I cannot adapt to the current change. Shiraz, how do you think about digital transformation and tech in as far as careers go?
Thanks. So there is one thing that Wamite said that I think is very key that we all have is like acknowledge that digital transformation and technology is going to change and is already changing what's happening. It's not something that we can fight. It's happening, it happened. So that's the first thing. And I think it's just that we have to embrace it. And I think this is, when it comes to it, the first problem to a certain extent, or the first thing we're facing is really this management of change. And as you said, is really this question of adapting. So how do we adapt it? So we should see it as really an opportunity to help us. It's not like, so some jobs might disappear. I don't know which one exactly, but somewhere. But from others, technology is going to be an added value. It's going to give you more information. It's going to help you do your job in a different way. I work a lot in the healthcare system, or a lot with people who are 50 years old and plus. So when it comes to them, some are keen on like trying out the technology and be like, some others are very reluctant. So I think this is happening. So this is like, you might be in this career, so you know how you've been doing your jobs throughout the years. And I think this is what's going to change. The way you're going to be doing your job is going to change. Now, the real question that you have to ask is, how can I take this technology? How can I take this digital transformation to improve my job? How can it serve me? You are not serving it. It is serving you. I am, as I said, I love sales and I love doing sales. And the part that I love about sales is meeting my clients. It's the face-to-face. I do a lot of exports. So I still do those trade missions, and I go and I meet those markets, because this is how I get so tuned in with the cultures, and I learn how to pitch to people. Obviously now, besides coronavirus that happened, right now, you know that you have no travel happening. Digital have made it like so connected. We're so connected to each other. Just if we look at now, we're like so connected. We're like from all around the world. That just this fact is helping us. So we should just, when it comes to digital transformation technology, not be against it, embrace it, and see how it's going to serve us, and just really taking the best out of it, and just continue, remember what you're good at, and see how this technology is going to be able to help you with your career. I'm good at sales, and I had to learn how to do social media and reach out to my clients now through mails and like Instagram and all these things that I'm really not a fan of, but I do it because this is how it's transforming. And if I want to reach out to people, I have to do it. So it's not gonna be maybe better in a way that we might lose a little bit of human connection, but if we know that we can still embrace it and like try to see how we can still continue it, just like see it as a tool to improve. And it's an amazing opportunity for all of us to actually learn. Who here love to learn and to grow? I think just if you're here, it means you love doing this. So it is an opportunity to keep on learning and growing in our careers, and just see it like really as your partner more than your enemy.
Fantastic. I would like to add, in respect to that conversation, that it is essential for all of us to develop the cognitive ability to continue to adapt. We need to know that the future of work represents opportunity and not necessarily a threat, unless you see it as such. And if you do, you really need to change your mindset that you have, because it's here to stay. And one of the simple ways that you can be able to do that is recognizing, I believe one of our speakers in the earlier sessions shared, that become a generalist rather than a specialist. You can still have your area of specialization, but the future of work will require you to be able to not just adapt, but to be able to provide solutions to varying problems that you were not faced with before. So you need to upskill. And today with the internet, we have access to opportunities. We have access to educational opportunities, career development opportunities, job opportunities, which is going to introduce us to the next questions, which has to do with trends that we are seeing due to the future of work and digital transformation, and how we can be able to adapt to that. I went off for a while. So let's talk about emerging trends that we are seeing that are presenting opportunities for people, irrespective of whatever career that they are in. Wamite? And how people can tap into this emerging trends to be able to carve a niche for themselves as they are planning to pivot.
Yeah, the trend there's a lot. So the trend that I want to talk about the most is just data and data analytics. You know, having basic awareness about data in your industry. And I mean, most companies, most small businesses have a Facebook page or Instagram page. And even being, let's look at this pandemic, for instance. I didn't know what I could order until I go onto their Instagram page to see what's available on the menu. At least that was the situation in the United States. So that company or that small restaurant can use that information about who's the customers that are reaching out for you. One of the businesses that I was getting food from, they were doing such a good job of engaging the customers around, all right, we see that you guys aren't buying as many of these soups. What's the issue there? And they were having just conversations with their audience via Facebook. And this is a very small shop that sells pie. And I've seen how they were able to use their platform to just talk to their audience. Now taking it a step further, it's what can they do with that data? Now that you have all these followers, now that you're understanding what they want, how can that help you with your product line? How many numbers of pies were you getting, or apple pies were people asking for? How many soups were people asking for? How can you use the data about how many likes that you're getting around your post to help inform your marketing? So most companies, to be very honest with you, there is some like Facebook and Instagram, and those are like the tech, goddesses of the world, know what to do with their data. A lot of companies are sitting on data that they have no idea what to do with. And they're just collecting, and hoping for talent to come in to help them analyze it a lot better.
The data.
Yeah. So, I think it's, what data do you have at your disposal at your job that can help you inform your job better?
Fantastic. I would like to add that one of the key things that I mentioned earlier is the ability to have access to e-learning opportunities. If you are currently sitting here and perhaps you recognize that where you want to go in your career, you don't have the necessary skills, or it will require you to upskill, there are a million platforms out there. edX, Coursera, we can list a whole lot of them. We can do a special article for this and share it as a follow-up resource. The second thing, which Wamite mentioned earlier, but I think it kind of skipped her, was the rise of the gig economy. Right now, we have several companies all around the world hiring people remotely. People with, in fact, the world went to the first remote work global experiment. Jobs that we thought we could not do if we are not at the office, we were forced to be able to do them. Now, as a career professional who is looking to pivot, how are you taking advantage of the opportunities that exist that is brought about by the gig economy? Today, we have companies in UK, in China, hiring people in Africa, hiring people in Asia. How are you presenting yourself online? Do you even have a digital footprint? We're talking about digital transformation. You need to start curating your digital footprint and being intentional about how you use social media, how you use professional networks like LinkedIn, what information you're putting there. Are you intentional about pivoting in your career through the use of social media and professional network? How are you presenting yourself online in such a way that if you are looking for a job, you can be able to find jobs online? We can have a whole webinar on how to find jobs online, but you need to be aware of the fact that companies are hiring remotely. You can also not necessarily have to work with companies. You can work with companies as a freelancer while you're having your business locally, wherever it is that you are in the world. And you can still be able to find contract for your business online. This is happening. You need not to know anyone, like what we say, oh, you need to know somebody to find a job in Nigeria or in Ghana or in Senegal or anywhere else. You don't need to literally know anyone to find a job. Your profile, your digital footprint needs to speak for itself. And second, or I would say in addition to that, one of the trends that we are also seeing is the contingent worker expansion. There are a number of companies that while we are currently experiencing lockdown, they were literally hiring more people. So you need to do your research within the area of expertise that you have. What industries, what type of companies are looking for what talent? Start to develop your portfolio, start to develop your skills along those talents that they're looking for and come in for those emergency jobs that typically arises. You also have so many people talking about social safety net. There are companies now that are looking for people who are expert in local markets because they cannot go anywhere. Shiraz, can you tell us a little bit more about that and how people can be able to use that emerging trend to be able to pivot in their careers or expand the impact of their work?
You touched upon like a lot of things that I wanted to mention, but like, so
oh
no,
my goodness, okay.
It's perfect because I wanted to tell you guys, it's going to start with your mindset. There are literally no more barriers, as in borders. Like first thing first, start like kind of your limiting beliefs that I am from Nigeria, I'm from Ghana, I'm from South Africa, and I want to work for this company, but they're in the UK, they're in the US, they're in Mexico, they're in Europe, whatever. And you're like, oh, I cannot because stop it. Let's start with that actually. First, work on your mindset. There are like no more borders, literally. And I'm just gonna build on whatever Fadila was like saying, and with like literal examples as well. As she said, create, be mindful. I love this word, like being mindful, because it's not about just having a footprint digitally and having an Instagram page or LinkedIn or whatever. You have to be mindful of what you put out there, guys. Like really know what you put and why you're putting it. And when she was telling, whatever you are doing, you're going to continue building it. Whatever the career you have, you're having, build on it. You don't have to delete everything you have done. And I'm going to give you an example. Like Fadila was like saying that it's okay if you don't know somebody in Nigeria, etc., etc. I have like one of the perfect examples that I am currently doing right now. So my first company, right, it's like Pitch World Fast. Fadila mentioned it briefly, but I used to do roundtables for the Algerian Ministry of Health in healthcare. Okay, coronavirus happened, so I stopped doing a little bit of that. No more roundtables, physical, whatever. So I started 2-3 weeks ago, I think, doing an African webinar, an African healthcare webinar, and it's the first time that I would actually work with African countries in general. But even though I am in Algeria, I know a couple of people in Tunisia and some in South Africa. That is it. I don't know anyone else, but I have whatever I've built in Algeria. And in the last webinar we have done, we had Rwanda represented. Where is it coming? We had Kenya represented, Senegal represented. In the one that is coming on this Saturday, I have also Nigeria represented. I'm forgetting another number, like Rwanda, Senegal, Ivory Coast represented. I just got a message on LinkedIn from somebody from the African CDC. These people do not know me. Like they literally don't know me. They just know whatever message and like emails I'm sending them. But because I have built like those roundtables or whatever, my LinkedIn or whatever I have done on that, I have references. So if they check, if they look, they know what I'm talking about. And imagine doing something on Africa where nobody knows me. So it's like, it's possible and it's up to you. So stop thinking that whatever you have to think small, whether for your career or if you're starting a company, that your company has to tailor only to your local market. That's not true. You are, and Wamite mentioned it earlier, what are you offering? What is the solution you're providing? What is the added value that you're providing? So you have mostly to focus on those things, and then it just goes. So technology is just going to be, it's an enabler. It's an enabler for your career. That's how you have to see it. It's not like the end of the world. And as Fadila was like saying, it happens, so you just have to embrace it and build on it. So really, whenever you feel like you're pivoting your career or starting a career, if when you people who would watch it like starting a career, take technology as really an asset for yourself, force yourself, learn and grow. And we're learning literally every day. I think we are the generation that have seen so many changes in such a short period of time, and it's continuing and it's going to continue. So we're going to be learning all the time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. And in addition, I would like to also share briefly that ethics and cultural consideration has become something that organizations worldwide did not really consider in the level of gravity that they currently consider. People recognize that people are no longer just patronizing a business due to the global name it has, but they have vested interest in the implication of how it works affect the lives of people. I believe last week and also next week, we're going to do a session. We talked about the need, excuse me, I cannot remember precisely what it was, but it had to do with the need for companies and individuals to readapt to emerging trends in relation to social justice, anti-domestic violence, etc., that is happening in the workplace. Now, somebody can be listening to me and be like, okay, how does that literally concern me as an individual? It does. If you can prove yourself right now, I don't know if you guys have been watching, but all around the world, major corporations are launching programs, funding, access to several kind of resources to support Black-owned businesses, to support marginalized groups. So what within your area of expertise or within your experience can you literally be able to package and pitch to these global organizations? If you are in, I don't know, Sokoto State in Nigeria, or you're somewhere in Niamey in Niger, or I don't know, you are somewhere in Chad, you can literally be able to apply for these opportunities. Just today, someone reached out to me on Instagram. Apparently, 2 months ago, I shared an opportunity with him. This guy took action on the opportunity and he won a grant. I don't want to mention the amount of money he won, but it is tremendous for somebody who is literally just starting out his career to work on a project related to COVID awareness. What are you doing based on the expertise that you have, based on the things that you're seeing? Because when we're talking about emerging trends, we're not just talking about digital transformation, emerging trends. The ability for you to pivot in your career will depend on how you listen to the market in which you operate and see genuinely if you can be able to offer service or value to some return. And in return, you can also be able to build on value. Avarungi, take it on from here. Thank you.
I suppose we've touched on a few things, ethics, digital transformation, and I think overall we've talked about the impact of the fourth industrial revolution, even though we did not really attack that as a concept, but I think the whole conversation revolves around that.
Right.
And personally, I've got 15 years in the industry in inverted marks, and lately I've been thinking a lot about how you can change from the industry, so to speak, to doing something different. So I've really enjoyed listening to today's takes, both from Shiraz and Wamite, because there's so much for us to think about. I don't think there's ever been a time in history when we think about change as much as we do, where you are aware of the change that you are going through. So yeah, thank you to our guests for taking us through that. I don't know, Fadila, if you have any last questions. I'm sort of quite conscious of the time that we have available. I've really thoroughly enjoyed sitting back and really thinking about my own career and how I can pivot from sort of being a podcaster. It's okay in 2020, but maybe 3, 4 years
Right.
from now, it won't be so okay. So where do you move to next? But I don't know, Fadila, I'll hand it back to you to either wrap up or maybe you've got any final questions for our guests.
Thank you, Abu. I will have a few more questions, and this is in relation to how do we actually pivot? So it sounds really nice to say we all want to grow in our career, but how do we get to move from just wanting to pivot to actually pivoting? And what does that process look like? What kind of mindset do we need to operate with? And what do we need to bear in mind while we are in this quest of pivoting?
I'll start and I'll know Wamite will go even deeper. So, because when you want to pivot, how you're going to do it, first of all, you have to be, to a certain extent, ready, but take yourself, like, as I love saying this, I'm sorry if I repeat myself, be gentle to yourself. Just by the way that you feel like you are unhappy in your career right now and you want to grow, that's like the first step. But again, it comes back to what I was saying initially, as in try to understand why you want to change it. What is the thing that you might not like in your career right now, or is there something that is not aligned with who you are? So this is what we're saying, like from the beginning, like take that like moment to evaluate where you're at. Wamita was giving the example how she would go and do other interviews, because actually by doing this, sometimes you would realize that maybe you're good where you are. Like sometimes it's just this little phase. So I think the first thing is evaluating yourself, going back to your core values and what you want to go to. The second is taking action. And the action part can be little action. Like it can be looking actually for other jobs if it's a job that you want to change. Looking at, you want to start maybe a project, you're thinking of maybe being an entrepreneur. And I want to, one thing about entrepreneurship, I'll just do a little parenthesis. Entrepreneurship have been like so trendy nowadays that it seems like everyone want to become an entrepreneur. I want to start this. Why this is so trendy, this is so cool, and they earn so much money, etc., etc. Guys, entrepreneurship is not all glamorous. Maybe we should post more about like how much we work or how much we're not earning money, and maybe saying those kind of things, those reality. But it is a journey that can fit for you, like cannot be fit. Like it's not because you're not an entrepreneur that your career is unsuccessful or a failure, and vice versa. Everyone has its own journey, but literally take those little actions. If you're thinking about entrepreneurship, it can be start by little projects on the side, and it can be also entrepreneurship within the companies you're working in. Like it depends on what you want. And like this is why I said like it has to start by what do you want? What is this thing that is missing that you feel like you want more in your career to pivot it? Because pivot doesn't mean potentially a drastic pivot, like you're an artist, or no, you're like a finance person, selling bonds, and then suddenly you want to start a band in music. Okay, I took like the really like the extreme thing, but pivot doesn't mean that. It can just be even in your own business, it can be reshifting actually the customers that you thought you would, or like changing the solutions that you have. Like pivoting can change like in a very different way. Okay.
Right.
So really start by little actions that would take you, like if you are in a career and you're thinking of maybe changing your job, start by just looking at what is out there. That's like an action to take. It's just like little action, but I would always go back to number one, that is know yourself. Like really guys, start by knowing yourself, your values, and what do you want, and then taking those little actions. And I'll let Wamite continue on that.
Fantastic.
Keep going. So yeah, so connecting about like not knowing yourself, it's what's causing this disruption. There's something inside of you that's saying, I want to change. I want to be a part of this pivot conversation. So be clear about what you're running from or pushing from so that you don't run back into it. Human nature, we tend to go back to our mess. If you have been in different relationships, you're like, I'm in the same relationship all over again. How did this happen? You know, I've gained weight again. I'm broke again, because we have a way of not learning from our mistakes. So be clear about what's causing this disruption. The most common things are like, you know, I want to change jobs. I want to change industries. I want to start your own business. And that's fine. And you know, obviously we have done this for different reasons. And the reason why Shiraz has had disruption is different than the reason why I'm having disruption. But it still led us to a place to be entrepreneurs. So get deeper, know yourself. Are you being pulled to do something? Are you being pushed to do something? What's causing that momentum? And be comfortable also with knowing what you do find out about yourself, because we might not like it. And you might, you know, have been blaming everything on the fact that your supervisor doesn't trust you. But when you kind of ask them some questions and you get deeper into it, there might be some things that you're realizing about yourself in terms of fear that you projected out that made them not think that you can be a leader. So be comfortable, or just, you're going to learn some things about yourself. Some of it you'll like, some of it you don't like. So be gentle with yourself. That, I think, is the tagline for this session. And, you know, this is going to be a messy process. So acknowledge that pivoting is going to be messy. If you're lucky, it's not, but in most cases it's messy. One, because you're going to realize that people had an idea of who you are, and now you're about to shift against that. So you're going to see who believes in you and who is just along for the ride, or who just wanted you to do things to make them happy. So, you know, it's going to be a messy process. There are cultural and economic factors at play that are very relevant. And I won't even want to predict what's happening in your particular part of the world, but you have to think about those that you're going to have to push against as well. And it's the small steps are absolutely right. And there's a calculated and uncalculated disruptions. Calculated are things that you're plotting and you're trying to really figure out how to push through it. And sometimes life throws things. So, you know, be open to that as well. And I would definitely, this is not the fast route for making money. You have to expect with pivot, especially if you want to go the entrepreneur route, you know, this is not the way to get fast money. And perhaps you just need to find that job that brings you your money while it's funding your passion. So yeah, I'll stop there.
I love where you stop, and I'm going to continue from here. So while you both were talking, I also went through the registration form just to get some of the questions that were asked there that perhaps we had missed out. And one of the things that, 3 things that stood out. The first one is, I'm currently not financially stable. I want to be able to pivot in my career, but I don't know how to be able to pursue both my passion and be able to make money at the same time. Now, I will talk from my experience, and I wouldn't give too much of a detail because of the time. I will encourage you all to please stay on the call with us. We will wrap up within the next 10 minutes, to be very honest. I can say 5, but we'll say 10. So the first thing is important to do. I will share something very personal. 2016, I used to work in corporate for about 2 years. And I was working with a company that everybody thought that I literally had money. Everybody was seeing me because the company was also giving me the opportunity to travel to other African countries. I remember at that point with my job, I worked in about 7 different countries. I even traveled and comment on this en anglais. I expatriated from where I used to live to a different African country because of this company. Now, a lot of people from the outside were seeing me as, oh my goodness, she has arrived. Let me just speak like the Nigerian English. You don't hammer, like you have arrived. But little did they know that financially I was broke, literally. Why was I broke? I wouldn't go too much into that details because I do respect and I cherish the experience that I got from that company and from that experience, because it gave me the ability to be who I am today. But the company didn't pay me what I was worth, right? But it was also as a result of several other factors that were not necessarily in, I would say, their control at that point in time, because we were trying to revive a business that was not that had issues, literally. Now, when I decided to quit my job and come back to Ghana, where I'm currently at, I literally came back to this country with less than $200. $200 is literally not a lot of money at all. It will not last for more than a month. If it's able to last for a month, hallelujah, literally. Now, what did I do? I recognized that I had passion for certain things that would not be able to make me money at that particular point in time. But I also did not want to find a job. I was sick and tired of working in corporate organizations. And I said, if I'm going to work with a corporate organization, it will have to be a multinational that will pay me in dollars. Now, what did I do? I didn't do anything for the 2 months that I came back, but I saw an opportunity and recognized that the skills that I had will be able to provide value in that space. So sometimes pivoting doesn't mean that you already have it planned out. An opportunity will emerge and it will be left for you to determine if the skills that you have can be able to provide value, and perhaps you can create either a business, you can offer your service as a freelancer and get the money that you need to be able to live a dignified life while you now start building on your passion. Some people are lucky, they are able to have a passion and the passion immediately turns into profit. So bear that in mind. The second thing also is that you may do jobs that are not Instagram worthy, and that is fine. I have been an actress, I have been a voiceover actress, I have been an usher, I have worked with different types of organizations that you would not see on Instagram in those years where I was working. And this is what a lot of people don't tell you. So be prepared. Pivoting means sometimes you need to take a step back so that you can take a step further. Be prepared to take up opportunities and jobs that may not be fancy and will not give you that, cool sense. If you want to pivot, it's not about looking cool or pleasing anyone. It's about the burning desire in yourself to know that I am sick and tired of where I am and I need to make a difference. I need to shift from where I am. So be ready to go a step back and then forge ahead. Another thing that cut across a lot of the questions that I saw from the registration form has to do with remote work. And I'll take 2 minutes to talk about this. When it comes to remote work has presented, or the global talent pool. Right now, you're not competing with the next person who you sat down with at the university, or perhaps the person you're seeing on Instagram who is doing the same business as you're doing in your country. Your competition is yourself, who you used to be before, but also in terms of physical competition, it is with the global talent pool. For you to be able to stand out to find a remote job, you need to first think first. You need to research the type of company you want to work with. You cannot keep applying for any remote job you get. We can do a special session on this. Target specific companies that align with the value that you have and where you see yourself going. Research the roles that exist in those companies. What is the job description? Can I be able to fit 6 out of, or even 5 out of 10? They said a lot of us, especially women, and also in some cases, Africans, we try to wait until we are overqualified for something before we apply. A lot of people out there, they are not even yet qualified, but they have the tenacity to say, oh, let me shoot my shot. Shoot your shot, literally. Find those job descriptions, try to convert the experience that you have. Let's say you were a teacher and now they're looking for somebody to be a career guidance counselor or something of that nature, or perhaps an administrative assistant, or perhaps somebody who's going to work with college graduates or something different in your field but has to do with working with people. Translate those skills to what we call remote skills. Communicate that skill on your CV. Number 3 or number 4 is build your online portfolio. I cannot stop emphasizing on this. I'm still building my portfolio. Shiraz, Wamite, Aburungi, Madi, we are all building our online portfolio. So take LinkedIn seriously. Don't be sharing information that you are sharing on Facebook on LinkedIn. Make your LinkedIn be as professional as possible, but it should also bring out the human side of you so you can able to communicate your values. It doesn't mean that don't talk about Black Lives Matter or end rape culture because it's LinkedIn. Talk about it there, but talk about it from a professional perspective. When you're able to know that you have a reasonable digital footprint that allows you now to start applying for those remote jobs, before you do that, I would say warm up the relationship with the companies and the people in those companies that you're looking to work with. Go on LinkedIn, add them up. Before you add them up, engage with their content, comment on their thing. They'll start knowing your name. It's very interesting that you can see a LinkedIn post where you have 100 likes but only 2 comments. Be that person who engaged thoughtfully with others and provide value in your interactions online. When the time is right for you to apply, send in that application. Connect with the HR manager, connect with somebody within the company, find somebody who can find someone within the company that can give you a recommendation. It doesn't mean you don't need to know anybody per se. Yes, you don't need to know anybody physically, but you still need to nurture online relationship, and that can help you to be able to pivot in your career. And once you're able to do that, don't apply for one job and wait 3 weeks before you apply for another. Pivoting means consistency and persistence. When 100 people tell you no, go on to ask the next person. So I hope that this session has given you more clarity. We're not able to answer all of your questions per se, but this is just a discussion to reawaken that which is within you, to rise up and to be able to step into those career paths, those businesses, and lead that life that you want. Avarungi, please take it home.
Madeline, Avarungi had to hop out for another session. So
fantastic. Thank you, Madi. Please take it home.
No problem. Sure. I actually put together 7 of some of the lessons that I learned from today's webinar series from Shiraz and Wamite. So I will drop that in the chat box. Right. Ladies, thank you so much for being with us today during this webinar. I have been waiting for this one, especially for a few weeks, and it's amazing to see a powerhouse female-led webinar session. So I'm looking forward to learning more about your journeys and looking forward to one day either meeting or working together, since, as was stated today, we have no borders, especially with tech and digital transformation. So thank you so much, ladies, and thank you, Fadila, for hosting an amazing webinar for the Guide to the Future of Work.
Thank you so much, Madi. Couldn't have anyone else close this better. At this point, since the webinar is officially over, I will invite anyone who wants to join us on video. We have a chit chat that we do 10 minutes after the webinar just to get some feedback and to hear how we can be able to improve this. So if you are just joining us, this is the Guide to the Future of Work webinar series by Africans Living Fully, in partnership with our media partner, 1,000 African Voices, Ghana, from South Africa. And on the team today is Fadila Ahmed, the convener. I was co-hosted by Aburungi Nangovela, as well as Madeline Ramos, our ally and lead team support member from New Jersey. If you have any questions, let us know. If you want to give us some video feedback, turn on your videos right now. Join us. We are going to unmute everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us. And we hope that this session has empowered you, inspired you to be able to take action to move from where you are right now to where you want to become. Shiraz and Wamite, do we have any last words or shall we go into the informal session? Thank you.
I have one thing I can.
I'm ready. You can go in it, but I'll let Shiraz talk.
I just wanted to say one thing, guys. Because that was like from the conversation from Fadila, you are the one to decide what you want success to be, because it like everyone has their own definition, and I want you actually to know also and focus on that. It's not like having tons of money, tons of followers, whatever. It's about what you want in your life. And even when you're thinking about pivoting your career, it's really about what you want for yourself. It is your journey, nobody else. So don't compare yourself to others, just compare yourself to yourself yesterday potentially, but that's it, and it's on you, so just go for it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Shiraz. It was a pleasure and honor to have you here, and I look forward to nurturing this relationship further. Wamite, any last words for us before we have our happy hour?
I'm ready for happy hour. You can follow me at Career Safari if you're interested. And you'll always hear our opinions on there.
Fantastic. I'm just typing that in the chat box. Madi has also done the same. Also, we would appreciate some feedback on Instagram. You can tag us, Africans Living Fully, Career Safari, and the Coach Tribe, just with one sentence of what you learned from today's session and what your biggest takeaway is. We'd love to hear your feedback. If you'd like to join us for the video session happy hour, I'm fasting, so no happy hour for me. But yeah, get your glass and let's have a chat for 10 minutes and we will call it a night. Thank you so much for being here with us, everybody. We appreciate you.